Let me tell you something. I thought I understood what prayer was. I thought prayer meant you stand up for a minute, say a few words, bow your head, and you done. That's what I thought. Simple, respectful, manageable. Then somebody told me tonight, you coming to Taraweeh. I said, okay, cool. How long is that? They said, it depends. I don't like that answer right there. Anytime somebody say it depends, that means you're about to experience something your body ain't ready for. But I said, all right, I'm coming. Now it's Ramadan. I've already been fasting all day. No food, no water. My energy running on faith and fumes. The sun goes down, I break my fast, I drink some water, eat a little bit, and immediately somebody says, don't eat too much. I said, excuse me, I've been hungry all day. What you mean don't eat too much? They said, because you got to stand in prayer. I didn't realize food had weight until that moment. Because when you fasting all day, your eyes hungry, not just your stomach. Your eyes want everything, rice, bread, meat, dessert, all of it. But I showed some discipline. I ate light because in my mind, I'm thinking this prayer gonna be like 10 minutes, 15 max. So we walk into the mosque and the atmosphere already different. Quiet, peaceful focus, people greeting each other softly, no loud talking, no chaos, just calm. And I'm standing there shoulder to shoulder with people from every background you can imagine. Young, old, rich, poor, everybody equal in that line. And that alone did something to me. Because outside those walls, status matters, titles matter, money matters. But in here, none of that means anything. You're just another human being standing before God. So the prayer starts, the recitation begins. And I'm listening to the Quran being recited in this steady, rhythmic voice. Even if you don't understand every word, you feel it. It slows your breathing. It quiets your thoughts. And I'm standing there thinking, okay, this is peaceful. Then we bow. Then we stand again. Then we go down. Then we stand again. And I'm thinking, okay, this is longer than expected. But I'm still confident. I'm still feeling good. Because at the beginning, your body cooperating, your legs strong, your back straight, your focus sharp. But what nobody tells you is Taraweeh ain't just about the first 5 minutes. It's about the next 30, the next 60, the next 90. And somewhere along the way, your legs start having a private conversation with your brain. My legs start whispering, hey, what exactly is happening here? And my brain said, we praying. And my legs said, we've been praying. And that's when I realized this wasn't just prayer. This was endurance. This was devotion, expressed through physical stillness. And here's the part that caught me off guard. Nobody was complaining. Nobody was looking at their watch. Nobody was sighing dramatically. Everybody was present, focused, committed. And I started asking myself, when was the last time I stood still this long for anything that didn't benefit me directly? See, we stand in line for money. We stand in line for entertainment. We stand in line for opportunities. But standing purely for God, that's different. That requires intention. That requires humility. And right there, only a few minutes in, I realized Taraweeh wasn't just something you attend. It was something you experience. And I was only at the beginning. Now let me tell you when things started getting real. Because at first, your adrenaline carries you. You standing there, you alert, you respectful, you trying to do everything right. But then time starts stretching. And I don't mean regular time, I mean that slow, deliberate kind of time where every muscle in your leg starts introducing itself one by one. First it was my feet. My feet said, hey, we notice you've been putting your full body weight on us for an extended period of time. Is this temporary or is this our new life now? I tried to ignore them. I shifted my weight just a little bit, trying to be smooth about it. Because everybody around me looked calm. Nobody moving, nobody fidgeting. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's just me. Then the recitation continues. Long, steady, beautiful. And there's this silence in between movements that forces you to sit with yourself. No phone, no distraction, no escape, just you, your thoughts, and your creator. And that's when the second wave hit my calves. My calves tightened up like they was filing a formal complaint. They said, listen, we support you, but we didn't sign up for this length of contract. And I remember thinking, how much longer could this possibly be? But I didn't dare look around too much because I didn't want to break the moment. And then we bowed again. And let me tell you something, that bow felt like mercy. That brief change in position felt like relief sent straight from heaven. And then we stood back up. And my legs said, oh, we back here again. But here's what surprised me. Nobody was rushing. Nobody was treating it like a task to finish. The imam was reciting with care, with intention, like every word mattered, and people were listening like it mattered. And that hit me, because outside, everything is fast. Fast food, fast conversations, fast entertainment, fast attention spans. We live in a world that trains you to be impatient. But Taraweeh forces you to slow down whether you like it or not. It forces you to stay present. And somewhere in the middle of that standing, I realized something deeper was happening. My body was uncomfortable, yes, but my mind was getting quieter. The noise I normally carry, deadlines, worries, plans, distractions, it started fading, and all that was left was awareness. Awareness of God, awareness of my own weakness, awareness of how rarely I dedicate uninterrupted time like this to anything spiritual. And then another thought hit me. People do this every night in Ramadan. Not once, not twice, every night, voluntarily. Nobody forcing them, nobody paying them. They come because they want that connection. And that kind of commitment humbles you because it exposes how easily we prioritize everything else. We will stand for hours at a concert without complaint. Stand for hours watching sports. Stand for hours chasing worldly things. But standing for prayer feels long because we ain't trained our hearts for it yet. And I started realizing the discomfort wasn't punishment, it was perspective. It was showing me how attached I am to comfort, how quickly I expect ease. And here were people twice my age, standing stronger than me. Calm, focused, present. And I stopped seeing my leg pain as suffering. I started seeing it as participation. Participation in something bigger than myself. Something millions of people around the world were doing at that exact same time. Different languages, different countries, same posture, same intention, same devotion. And that realization gave me strength my muscles didn't have on their own. And then came the moment I'll never forget. The moment when the physical struggle stopped being the main story and something deeper took over. Because up until then, I was very aware my body, every second, every shift, every ache had my attention. But somewhere in the middle of the recitation, something changed. I stopped thinking about how long we had been standing, and I started listening. Really listening. The imam's voice wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was steady, confident, intentional. And there was this rhythm to it that made you feel like the words weren't just being spoken, they were being carried. And I looked around without turning my head too much, just enough to see the people beside me. Eyes lowered, faces calm. Nobody performing, nobody trying to impress anybody. And that hit me hard because outside in the world, everything feels like a performance. People performing success, performing confidence, performing happiness. But here, nobody was performing. They were surrendering. And that's different. See, standing that long strips away your pride. Because pride don't like discomfort. Pride wants convenience. Pride wants recognition. But when you standing in prayer, shoulder to shoulder with everybody else, your title don't help your legs hurt less. Your money don't shorten the recitation. Your status don't make the prayer easier. You are just human, equal, dependent, present. And I remember my mind drifting for a second, thinking about all the times in my life I claimed I didn't have time to pray properly. All the times I rushed through spiritual moments so I could get back to my schedule. And here were people given an hour, sometimes more, purely for connection with God. No transaction, no worldly reward, just devotion. And I asked myself quietly, what does that kind of discipline build inside a person? Because discipline like that don't stay in the mosque. It follows you into your decisions, into your character, into how you treat people. And then something else surprised me, the unity. Every time we bowed, everybody bowed together. Every time we stood, everybody stood together. Nobody early, nobody late. Perfect synchronization. And I realized this is what alignment looks like. Not just physically, but spiritually. Everybody moving with the same intention. And there was comfort in that. Because modern life isolates you, makes you feel like you're carrying everything alone. But in that prayer, you weren't alone. You were part of something ancient, something continuous. Generations before you stood like this. Generations after you will stand like this. And for a moment, you are connected across time itself. And then came a brief sitting position. And I cannot lie to you. That sitting felt like mercy poured directly into my joints. My knees thanked me. My back thanked me. My entire nervous system said, we appreciate this development. But even in that relief, nobody collapsed. Nobody stretched dramatically. Everybody stayed composed, respectful, ready to stand again. And when we stood back up, I noticed something. My legs still hurt, but my resistance was gone. Because now I understood the purpose. This wasn't about testing how strong my muscles were. This was about teaching my soul patience, teaching my heart humility, teaching my mind stillness. And those lessons don't come through comfort. They come through endurance. And standing there tired but present, I realized Taraweeh wasn't asking me to be perfect. It was asking me to show up fully, honestly, without distraction. And that alone was changing me. And when the prayer finally ended, I didn't move right away. Not because I couldn't, although my legs definitely had opinions, but because I didn't want to break the moment too fast. Everybody around me started making quiet supplications, some raising their hands, some just sitting there in stillness. No applause, no announcement, no you did it. Just silence, and that's when it hit me. The world celebrates entertainment, but it doesn't celebrate discipline. Nobody gives you a trophy for standing in prayer. Nobody hands you a medal for fighting your own discomfort. But that don't make it small. That makes it sacred. And when I finally stood up to leave, my legs felt heavy, like they had just completed something serious, not injured, just used in a way they weren't used to being used. And I remember taking a few slow steps, almost laughing to myself, thinking I did not expect prayer to feel like this. Because I walked in thinking Taraweeh was going to be a formality, something symbolic, something gentle. But it wasn't gentle, it was real. It demanded presence. It demanded patience. It demanded humility. And here's what surprised me the most. I felt peaceful. Physically tired, yes, but mentally clear. Spiritually calm. The kind of calm you don't get from sleep or entertainment. The kind of calm that comes from alignment. Because for that hour, I wasn't chasing anything. I wasn't checking anything. I wasn't performing anything. I was just standing where I was supposed to be. And that clarity stays with you when you walk out. The night air feels different. The world feels quieter. Even the sounds of cars and distant voices feel softer. And I started thinking about the people who do this every single night of Ramadan. Not once. Not occasionally. Consistently. That kind of consistency builds something inside you. It builds resilience. It builds discipline. It builds a relationship with God that isn't dependent on convenience. And I realized Taraweeh wasn't just about reciting scripture. It was about reshaping priorities. Because when you willingly give your time and your comfort to something higher, you remind yourself what truly matters. And I'll be honest, part of me wondered, can I do this again tomorrow? Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew it would require intention, effort, commitment. And that's the thing about spiritual growth. It don't force itself on you. It invites you. You have to accept it willingly. Nobody dragged me into that mosque. Nobody forced me to stand. I chose to be there, and that choice made it meaningful. And as I walked away that night, I realized Taraweeh gave me something I didn't expect. Perspective. Perspective on patience. Perspective on humility. Perspective on how easily we prioritize comfort over connection. Because the truth is, standing that long wasn't easy. But neither is becoming a better person. Neither is disciplining your ego. Neither is strengthening your faith. Those things require repetition. They require showing up, even when your body complains and your mind negotiates. And that's the honest reaction nobody tells you. Taraweeh would challenge you physically, but it would change you spiritually. And once you experience that combination, that struggle, and that peace existing at the same time, you stop seeing it as something difficult. You start seeing it as something necessary.